Okay, shh. Listen to this. This is the tape I found downstairs.
This is Professor Raymond Nogan, Department of Ancient History, log entry number 2. I believe I have made a significant find.
Death has come to your little town, Sheriff.
Don't you blame the movies! Movies don't create psychos! Movies make psychos more creative!
We have such sights to show you.
I said, I'm not gonna hurt you. I'm just gonna bash your brains.
What is up, everybody? Damn, so good to see the old podcast intro that we never use. I worked so hard on that, and then we stopped doing podcasts. So that's just what it is. But what is going on? We got Necro in the chat. What is going on, my boy? Welcome. Artie is here. What's going on? Thank you, sir. We appreciate it. Yes, tonight is long overdue, Luke. We have been meaning to do this. We've been meaning to make this happen, and it's about time we did. We're celebrating 15K. Yeah, you guys absolutely blew it up out of the water over the last month. I mean, I think we said at the beginning of October we wanted to be at 10K by the end of the month was kind of the goal that I was pushing. And we did that. We got there way before the end of the month, and yeah, just between kind of recollecting ourselves and taking a quick breather, we quickly surpassed that before we could actually sit down and find a real prudent time to get everything situated for this stream.
Yeah, I think we were planning for our 10K. I think we actually had some discussions on it as we were going through the month of October, because we hit it at some point in there, and we're like, oh yeah, we'll get it like at the end of the month. It's just the end cap to, the Halloween season. And then it just kept growing. And we're like, wait a second. Well, 11 seems weird. It's not really a milestone. And then we got to 12. And it was like, oh, wait. Now we're at 15. So now seems like the right time to circle back and actually celebrate these milestones that we're hitting.
Absolutely. And like there has been a lot going on behind the scenes as well with this that we've been kind of building, procuring. There's been things that people have sent us that we haven't had a chance to talk about. So this is going to be a pretty big update to this as well. But for the most part, I put it out there like earlier last month of just like what you guys would want to do. And Q&A was the thing that got the most attention. So I figured, well, hey, let's do that. So we'll kind of, I guess, start things off. We'll talk about a little bit of maybe some news, do a little bit of Q&A stuff. And then as we get towards the end of the show, we're going to kind of discuss some of these updates regarding the channel, talk about some of the things that we got going on. And yeah, let's get into it. Necro popping up in here with, let's see, just watched your Street Trash video, watched the film last night. The opening scene was amazing. Yes, absolutely agree, sir. The opening of that movie is it sets the tone so beautifully. I love just strapping a guy down to a chair and getting the goo ready. So that was exciting for me. Luke, you weren't so hot on Street Trash. You didn't hate it, but you had some criticisms. But I have a feeling that intro was not one of them.
Well, Dylan, if you remember our review, I said that the opening up until after the chase scene was the strongest part of the film. So yes, that one had my intrigue. Again, it built my hopes. Didn't really necessarily deliver throughout, but with the guts, the gore, that kind of body horror element to it, just being a melt film, I think it did deliver in that aspect. But I 100% agree. That opening, my gosh, it really does set your expectations. Maybe that was my problem with it, but I don't think so.
Yeah, I think that it's definitely a bit of a wonky movie. I certainly had more fun with it than I think some people are having, but I think that it's totally fair to say that it's a movie that starts off with a lot of steam and potential and everything's going well. And then, it gets a little meandery as you go along, but I think they really bring it home by the end with all of the all out craziness and gore and stuff. So I'm certainly happy with it. I'm happy that people are renting it, getting to see it. I did just post today an interview I did with Ryan Kruger, the director. And it was funny because in our talks, I didn't even get to talk to you about this yet, Luke. He actually dropped that he is currently working on getting everything secured and ready to go on one of his next projects, which is going to be Frankenhooker. So that's going to be pretty interesting to see. So have you seen Frankenhooker, Luke?
No, it's one of the ones that's on my list. It was something I'm always like, meh, I'll get around to it. It's never really pops up on our agenda, so it wasn't anything that I had put, on my watch list as to immediately. But I think I think the Kill Count just did a Frankenhooker thing too. I saw that pop up somewhere on YouTube. So I think it's becoming a little more pertinent. I would say. So I'm gonna certainly put it on my list. I think, man, I don't know if anyone remembers this. Well, no, we never released it, did we? It was never a video. It was when we got interviewed. It was like one of our first interviews, and Ted.
Yes.
He loved Frankenhooker, and like that was like one of the things I was like, I've never heard anyone really say that. So
Frankenhooker, Chopping Mall were some of his big ones there.
Yes,
So
those
he'll
ones,
definitely be
obscure.
cool. Yeah. Ted's a good guy. Definitely appreciated that. That was kind of surreal. I think we had like 100 subscribers or something at the
Yeah.
time. And dude was like, I love your shit. I want to interview you. He's local too for us. So that was also awesome. We've bumped into him a couple of times through that. But yeah, is anybody in the chat familiar with Frankenhooker? Is that something that you guys have any experience with? It is a blind spot for me as well. So
And we talked about it a little bit in our reviews, and we've certainly talked about it just randomly throughout some of our videos, where I think something like Frankenhooker, where I'm willing to bet it's certainly a blind spot for a lot of general horror audience people, where I think even us being deeper in the horror space, we still have yet to check that box. I like the idea of Shudder, Screambox getting some of these properties like this. I don't know if that's going to be made for that or not, but I think that would be a property that is absolutely ripe to go to a horror streaming service to say, the fan base, it's not Halloween, it's not Nightmare on Elm Street, to say that fan base is built in, that we can throw this in the theater, but we can certainly be released digitally, just like Street Trash was, and then be picked up and be out there to the masses in a streaming service. So that's what is really exciting about right now. We talk about Shudder killing it this year. Screambox had a great year last year. And so more of these obscure properties showing up would be just absolutely awesome here in the next few years.
Yeah, and talking about some of these streaming services, I mean, Shudder has just absolutely been crushing it. And one of the things they did this year that I really, really fell in love with just recently was the Creep Tapes. We both got to check that out, which that's been awesome. So if you guys are eager to check that out, another 2 episodes or another episode came out tonight. So you'll definitely be able to check that out. I definitely really have fallen deep back into my love for Creep. I think that those are just such fun films. And yeah, we'll definitely have to get around to talking about those at some point, at least the original ones, because I think they've got a lot to offer. It's just so much fun you can have with the found footage stuff. Again, being bigger found footage fans now, I just appreciate it so much more personally.
Just the storytelling techniques that they use. And yeah, I don't know if they're dropping them 2 episodes weekly, or is it, that initial 2 episodes and then 1 episode every Friday or whatever. But man, that show will have you hooked just from, I love the aspect of found footage. It makes so much sense from the storytelling aspect of it. It really does keep you hooked from that very beginning of how are they going to approach another scene or another scenario with our character. And each episode really knocks it out of the park, giving you something not overly different, but just different enough to say, this does stand out from the other 2 episodes that I'd watched, and usually deliver something different in terms of storytelling. I think I was not expecting any really progression in terms of getting deeper into any sort of character roots. And it's nothing like we dive deep or anything, but it does give you just enough to keep you intrigued to say, I like the backstory that we're getting here, but also meshing it into just these awkward scenarios that end up horrific.
I agree. I agree with you. Another thing that I'm going to share here for us that I found very interesting today is, did you get a chance to see this yet, Luke? The
Just
Popeye the Slayer
briefly, I
Man?
didn't sit down and watch the entire trailer. It's certainly a take there, I would say. I
Hmm.
think this is right up your alley, Dylan.
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, I was talking with Brandon on Twitter there. He's always doing the Lord's work with us. He's Brandon likes movies. He's always tagging us and stuff, making sure that we see all the big news. So this certainly is one that he knew I was going to have to talk about with him a little bit, because yeah, the cool thing about this one that I would say is that it's from the same studio for the Blood and Honey Fellows, the ITN studios. So, it's definitely in the same wheelhouse. So hopefully they can expect a little bit of some quality there. But I will say that the thing that did catch me off guard is Popeye looking a little rough. I was hoping a little bit more makeup than mask, but it looks like we're kind of going back to the Blood and Honey roots with a mask there. But I will say the kills that they did show, pretty cool, pretty gruesome.
And I'm not against this stuff. I mean, hell, we did the Street Trash review, and it didn't really do it too much for me, but I still gave it worth a watch. I like that these properties are coming out, and I think there's so much room in the horror space for just different properties. It's nothing that has to be, top 10 of the year or one of the best crafted films. I think, hey, take a shot. We saw what happened with the Blood and Honey guys. Of that first film didn't really do it for a lot of people, and then they bounced right back with that second film, and a lot
Oh,
of
yeah.
people were pleased with it. So, maybe this Popeye what is it?
Slayer
Slayer
Man.
Man. I'll play on words. I do enjoy that. I got to give him props on that one. But, maybe this first one doesn't do it, or, maybe there's a sequel down the line, or maybe it just gets the name of the director, the creatives out there, and they really do have a property that they really want to put their fingerprints all over. So it's one of those things where it's hard to discount properties, certainly in the horror space, because hey, we've looked through the 80s through the 90s. There's a plethora of films out there that are very versatile and very weird in terms of just what they decide to do and what stories they decide to tell. So, I'm all for it. Is it going to knock my socks off? Probably not. But I think, like you said, there could be some pretty good kills in here, or just a creative avenue that has been unexplored thus far. So, hey, I'm all for it.
100%, man. Yeah, I'm feeling that way too about these. I'm softening up a bit. It's more or less, I think, maybe my I guess bias is showing a little bit, because when it comes to some of the other even smaller studios and these guys doing them, it really comes down to, how does this feel? Does this feel cash grabby, or does this feel like they're having fun? And this one certainly feels like they're having fun. It doesn't feel as cash grabby, even though I think it's safe to say that most of these are. I wouldn't say the Blood and Honey guys and what they're doing with Screamboat and stuff, I don't think that is, because I mean, again, a little bit of a bias. We've spoken with these folks. We've talked with them. We talk to them relatively often, and like, they have a lot of work and passion they're putting into these. I was actually just talking to Scott and Reese today a little bit. We were messaging about the fact that Puniverse was already like sold to a bunch of international theater chains. So like, they're already gearing up to have that film like in theaters for its release, and the movie hasn't even been shot yet. So it's like, it's kind of incredible that that's already happened for them. So that's exciting stuff. And I can say with some certainty that I know that we're going to have Scott back on the channel at some points in the springtime here, because they have a couple of movies coming out and he wants to join in and talk about them. So we will be diving back into the Twisted Childhood universe sooner rather than later.
It's always a fun time, to be honest. We've seen some stuff, and it's rather intriguing to see the trajectory that they're going in. Scott is an absolute gem of a person. Reese as well. We haven't talked to Reese since that initial interview.
Other than DMs, yeah, we haven't like spoken to him in
he
person.
just hasn't had the time, and it's wonderful. It's wonderful that, we talk about that Terrifier effect and what that did for the theatrical experience with some of these different horror properties, and certainly Blood and Honey falls into that, where that may not have had a theatrical release, maybe nothing, maybe straight to digital if something like Terrified didn't exist. But then you look at Blood and Honey, and that opened up so many creative avenues and doors for other stories to be told that are said, hey, let's take a chance. Let's put this stuff in the theater. So when you look at something like Blood and Honey and how that was a little bit underwhelming for a bigger audience. And then, like we said, Blood and Honey 2 came out and it pleased a lot of people. So looking at it and saying, hey, Puniverse is already being picked up, it's already being anticipated. It's a wild time in the horror space that a lot of creatives are getting a shot that 10 years ago, hell, maybe even 5 years ago, when they've even got the opportunity to tell these stories, let alone put those stories in the theater for an audience to go enjoy, on the big screen. Most of the time, we're sitting in the dark in our living rooms watching these straight to digital films. But nowadays, hey, we get to go to the theater, whether it's for a weekend, 2 weekends, whatever it is. Take what you can get, because what a fun time we're living in.
Oh yeah, and I did want to touch on these 2 comments real quick here. Necro says, I've only 1 episode of Creep Tapes this week, and it is the Jeremy episode. So very, very cool stuff there. Enjoyed that one. Next, Betty Boop, the Slasher Queen. Absolutely,
Let's do
Artie,
it.
I'm all for it. Is Betty Boop also in the public domain? That's a question that
We're
we
gonna
gotta
have
find
to
out.
let's comb through the public domain. That's what we're gonna do here, and we're gonna decide on what next horror film to write.
Yeah, I mean, it's something, man. I know certainly for this public domain stuff, there's just seems to be so many damn movies coming out now that are all over these public domain properties. I'm very curious to see what's going to come in starting on the 1st this year that people are going to hop all over.
As we're talking about it here, we're just kind of shooting ideas here. Let's do a list, top 5 public domain characters in either own horror movie. So, hey,
I've seen some of that too. I'd love to sit down and do that with you. I think you and I could come up with some good ones.
I think so. So maybe that'll be something we put on the radar for the new year, since we're kind of sitting down and kind of compiling these lists, so to speak. So I think that could be rather interesting, because I honestly have never really sat down and looked at that. The only times I ever hear about it are when there's a Bloody Disgusting article saying so-and-so's public domain and getting a horror film. So I'm sure there's a lot of interesting stuff in there.
Slick Joe McWolfman, I love it. And then actually Artie says Boop will be in the public in 2026. Time to start writing. All right, we've heard it. We got to do it. That's our calling. Let's hit up Scott and Reese and be like, can you fund this? Let's make it happen.
We don't have a script, we don't have an idea, but can you fund this, please?
Please do it. One that I can say with certainty, I know you and I are going to sit down and really go through our December list here soon to get that one primed and ready, but I guess we can talk about it here real quick, so that way everybody knows that this is coming up. But I did just get the screener for The Naughty List of Mr. Scrooge. It's a slasher featuring someone dressed up as Ebenezer Scrooge, as they put here on Bloody Disgusting. I saw the trailer for this. It was mostly this poster, if I'm going to be honest, that just intrigued me. And, I'm a sucker for even a cheap Christmas slasher. I think we don't have a ton of Christmas horror this year, other than Nosferatu being kind of the big release, and then Werewolves being right at the start of the month. So we have one at the end and one at the beginning. That middle part is going to be really, really lacking. So I'm kind of like, man, I want to fill this up with something. So this is one that I did take the initiative on without asking for Luke's input. So I will at least have to put myself through this. Luke, will you be joining me?
I'll have to watch the trailer and find out, but I'm a sucker for holiday horror. And I think last year, now, if my memory serves right, that kind of December snuck up on us, where we had Santa Isn't Real. Then we had a creature was stirring, I believe. And what was it? Something Games. I'm forgetting what that one was called, but I don't think we were prepped at all. We knew about It's a Wonderful Knife, which is certainly something I'm going to be revisiting this year.
Yeah.
I have a lot of fun with that one. But, I think those 3 certainly snuck up on me. I wasn't really expecting them. We went from really focusing on December to Dismember, and just the ideas that we had there, to just watching those screeners, because it really did sneak up on us. So, this one, I'm going to watch that trailer, but you don't really have to twist my arm too hard, no matter how bad a holiday horror film can be, as long as there's only a couple of boxes you got to check for me that'll at least make sure that I enjoy myself a teensy bit, that I can give you worth a watch for the holiday season. So,
And I just feel like this one is definitely going to be one that we can at least sit down and have some fun with. Just looking at the trailer, again, the poster, just the Ebenezer Scrooge slasher. It's just such a look once you actually see it in the trailer. It's a lot of fun. Let's see here. Artie has a couple more suggestions. Casper the Ghost Maker, like that. Felix the Saber-Tooth Cat. Flintstones, The Stone Age Murder Chronicles. All right, let's go with Flintstones, The Stone Age Murder Chronicles. Are they in the public domain?
That's I don't know about like Flintstones, but as we're talking, what is Out of Darkness became, what was it?
No. Was it Out of Darkness? I think that's what they changed it to.
Is that what it was? I thought they changed it to more.
It was The Origin. Remember, it was The Origin, then it became Out of Darkness. Yeah.
That one, like Flintstones time period with a slasher or something like that, could be rather interesting. We could have dinosaurs running around. Let's do it.
I'm all for
a slasher dressed up in a dinosaur suit. Let's do it.
I have one that I do want to bring up to you that we haven't talked about yet. We don't really get to sit down and like discuss news anymore unless it's giant. No. You and I, like after we stopped doing Sunday Scaries, and we kind of started doing more of the Beyond the Splatter Graves thing every 2 weeks or so. But like you and I don't get to like just sit here and talk about news. So this is very nostalgic for me. I like this. And then Johnny is in here, Johnny Mashed Potatoes, with do you guys have a limit with these IPs getting horror movies? Where do you say that's enough? I mean, personally, I'm a very much a take it or leave it kind of guy with these things. I think it just totally depends on the team that's behind it. And once I actually start seeing the marketing in the trailer, it just, to me, it depends on what it looks like. What is the intent behind it? Do you actually have something fun to do with this? Because I never expect them to be deep or like anything like that's going to change the way I look at it like some horror movies do. I'm totally just expecting a fun time. Now, as long as they look like that, I'm good with it. They can do anything is on the table for me. Horror is a malleable genre. But if you get to the point where you're just doing it for money, like Mickey's Mousetrap, which felt extremely like they were just doing it for money, that's where I got to throw the keys in and say I'm done. I'm not in that. I'm not in that park anymore. I'm not doing it.
And for me, looking at it, I'll say doing the channel here and really just being able to see so many films that, to be honest, if we weren't doing this, I probably would have never sat down and actually watched. We've watched so many films over the past 2 years that there's no way that in my life, other than having this commitment, that I would have been able to actually sit down and watch those films. So I'm way more open-minded than I was 2 years ago in terms of giving things a chance. For when you say that's enough, for me, I guess that doesn't really exist, because I think there's enough room in the horror space to say, hey, at least throw it out there. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean I have to watch it, but maybe there's an audience. Maybe someone will like it. I don't know. But I think saying that's enough for me, it doesn't really exist, just because there are so many films out there that maybe on the surface, I would have said, I don't think it's for me. And then Frogman was probably, like, you would ask me 2 years ago to watch Frogman, I would have said, no way.
It would have been a struggle. I would have really had to push you to get on that one.
And I all in on Frogman. I own the collector's edition of that thing. It's gorgeous. I'm excited for a sequel on that one. So I'll say doing Splattercast has really kind of changed my stance on that, to say the more the merrier. Just because you have it out there doesn't mean I'm going to watch it. But if you want me to watch it and review it, I'm going to give you an honest review on how I feel about it. So just be prepared for it, because I want to let other people know that maybe don't have that commitment, or say, I don't have the time and I want to watch a film that I want to watch, to say, maybe go and see something you're really interested in instead of watching something that we're going to give a slash it to. So, I mean, you run that risk, but for me, I'm really open-minded in terms of that, and really saying, hey, more the merrier. Let's see what we can do, how creative we can get.
Yeah, I'm right there with you on that. It's when you do this all the time and you're watching stuff constantly, I think it just does kind of take away that sting a little bit, as far as just like, oh, is this going to be a waste? It's just another movie in the pipeline for us, really, which I know sounds a little bit more negative as I say it out loud, but I don't mean it that way. I mean it like, I'm not as upset if I see something like bad, because it's like, hey, it's something that I am sitting here, I'm enjoying horror, I love to support the space, and that's the thing that's I think really comes to it too. Once you get more involved in the community, and we have people like you guys in here that we can talk to about it, at least it gives me something to say, hey, I watched this week. Like, how do you guys feel about it? Did anybody else check this out? When you guys comment stuff or tag us in posts, or we pop up into like chats like this, and we can all just kind of say, like, throw our 2 cents in on something, even if it was terrible, it's still fun. It still makes the adventure worth it.
And to be honest, as we're here celebrating, 15K, it's one of those things where I never would have imagined, and it's such a privilege to even watch a bad film for us, because they send it over, email, whatever,
Yeah.
and you get to watch it. And whether it's an hour and a half, whatever it is, it's just some time for us. Going into those reviews, it's like street trash, where story didn't really do it for me. Narrative was weak, but the practical effects were really fun. The tone was fun. So it's kind of picking those negatives and those pluses for people to say that don't have the access to say, hey, I'm just going to go watch a screener film, where it's like, hey, you have to go spend $15 or whatever it's going to be to rent that.
Yeah.
And, for me, I always take that approach when we do the reviews to say, income is what it is for different people, but you might have that extra income to go drop on a film you're not going to like. So I try to be as objective of it, where this one was for me, but I think maybe it's not going to hit. So I think like looking at that is that approach is really something that we hold ourselves to, because we have to go in there and say, maybe this isn't going to hit. So I don't know, I think it's just such an interesting dynamic that we can just spend time watching these films. We have the access to them.
Yeah, that is something that, I mean, we've said it more than once on here, but like the fact that, this platform has grown so much, and, we've made so many connections with studios and have been able to, gain the, the following that we have, it makes it so much easier and so much like more legitimate, I guess is what you'd say, to these studios when we request things like this. Cause like I'm constantly sending them reviews saying, hey, check out our comments on this. I'm sending them just a channel to our links and stuff like that, because it's like, I think it's awesome for them, because it's like, hey, you're reaching out about this. And I think that's something that, I'll say this now, because I talking in the space, I'm not talking trash about anybody here, but I've noticed that there's a lot of people that we work with and are friends with who I think don't understand or don't really know where to go when it comes to finding screener access or anything like that, or getting interviews. I get that question a lot in our comment section about how this stuff works. And to be completely honest with you guys, just reach out, find an email, find an info for the studio, find something on there, and just send them an email and say, hey, I have a channel, I have a platform. Even if it's a small, like, when did we get our first screener? How many subs did we have, Luke? Like 500?
It was something real low, like something like was that from Welcome Villain? Was that the one?
No, that was the second one. Our first one was Screenbox. It was Outwaters.
Outwaters, that's right. Man.
We had like 500 subs or something like that, and they still were like, hey, yeah, no, that's cool.
And
it's obtainable.
And to think of how many screeners that we've gotten at this point, sorry, I'm getting off track, but to think about how many screeners we've gotten and how many films that maybe were just worth a watch or even lower. But for the Outwaters to be the first one, and for that to be in our top 10, both of our top 10s of the year, it was just like mind-blowing to me. I forgot about that being our first screener, and then just being one of our favorite films of the year.
Yeah, I mean, I'll never forget that, like, at all, because like that was just such a big moment for us. Like, and that's what I'm just trying to say to you guys is, like, anybody who's like listening or watching or in the chat right now who wants to do this and wants to start even just a horror channel or a movie channel in general, like, you can do it. Like, you can actually sit down and make it happen. It's just about making sure that you like stay consistent. And then if you want to get access to this stuff, all you have to do is just put yourself out there. It
Yeah.
never hurts to ask. The worst thing that I get when it comes to this is a non-response. If somebody doesn't say something to me, even a no, I appreciate, because at least it's like, okay, I have that connection now. You know, because we get shut down a lot from like A24, Neon, you know, all these other studios who are a little bit more, not stingy, but a little bit more protective of some of their movies. And, you know, it's like, it's okay. At least I have that connect, because every once in a while they come through and it's good to have it.
And you know, Dylan says he gets shut down. I'll tell you, it is such a nice no. It's never a what the hell you doing emailing
Mhm.
me. It's one of those things where they kind of explain the situation, they tell you, you know, why it's a no-go. And then you kind of leave that line open. You have a point of contact now. So maybe not this one, but maybe on the next one they'll be able to circle back in and get you a request. But you know, even that, you always got to look at it where even if you're hesitant to say, I don't know if I want to reach out, you also have to look at it. Yes, it's a privilege to be able to get access to screeners, be able to watch that stuff a little bit earlier than most people and get a review out. But also, you got to think, if you're a horror fan, one of the responsibilities of a channel like that is you got to spread the word. These
Mhm.
creatives, they want eyes on their properties, you know. So even if you reach out for that screener and you're like unsure, it's like just take that leap, because another video, another review about a film that a lot of people don't know about is going to spread that word. It's going to get just a handful more eyes. Like something like Sting, where I don't think that film's talked about enough. I enjoyed that film that came out earlier this year. I think it was really well done, and I haven't heard a lot of people talk about it, at least while I'm scrolling through Twitter or whatever. I didn't see a lot going on about that film, so it's one of those ones where there's still a lot of blind spots for people out there that are really good films. So, you know, always feel, if you're thinking about reaching out, take that leap. Go out there and see if you can get that screener, because like Dylan said, the worst they're going to say is no, and you move on with your day and you send another email. So it's one of those things where maybe it's built up in your head a little bit more, but when it actually happens, it's never a big deal.
Yeah, and that's the same thing I say for interviews. I've been asked a couple of times like how we get interviews and things with people, and it's like most of the time studios are more having a harder time getting people to sit down for interviews than they are for screener access. Any studio, any outlet, any channel will ask for a screener, and it's as easy as just getting the email. But like if you commit to an interview and we'll talk to some of the creatives, it's like you are in the good graces of them like right away, because like that is so much harder for them and they get judged so much harder on that. So like anybody again who is thinking about doing this, who wants to jump into it, especially for horror, it's totally achievable. I was one of those people, Luke was one of those people who was just like, man, we got to be like, you know, 100K, we got to be like Cody Leach size or bigger before we can even start getting any of this. So like we just got to like go to the theater every Thursday night, make sure we're seeing as much stuff as we can, you know, trying our best. And then it opened the door to so much when it's just like, hey, no, in the horror space, like it's not just the community, it's not just all of us here, but like the studios, the smaller ones especially, are more than willing to be like, hey, if you're going to talk about our stuff, if you're going to support it, then we're going to support you. And that's been a beautiful thing. It's why I think this has stayed so consistent, and why it's like I wake up every day and I'm like, I'm excited to work on the channel, to talk with you guys, to get into this, because it's like it's just so supportive. It's so different than like any other like fandom or anything I've ever been like a part of. Because like talk about Star Wars, talk about anything like that, Marvel, DC, it's like you get so many shitheads in there who just like will just eat you up for no reason. But like talking about this stuff, it's like everybody's just so like cool, and even if we don't agree, we're like, people will be like, yeah, like we can still talk about it, we can still be like civilized human beings, we're still in the same team here.
You
Like
know,
I love it.
unless you fumble Peter Jackson's filmography, but
That is true, yes.
anyway, no, you know, it is one of those things where the horror space is met with so much positivity, and like you're talking about, like Star Wars and things like that. And Star Wars is an pretty versatile lore, but I would say horror in general has probably the most versatile lore in terms of everything that you're able to watch and consume, and stories that have been told. And I'll say, watching screeners where you can gear a channel toward everything that you like. And that's great. You have an abundance of things to talk about and, get really in depth with it. One of the things I like that about these screeners is it widens your variety of tastes, where like I talked about Frogman, not really being found footage fans at the start of the channel, and then really growing to love it and really seeing how creative that space can be in terms of storytelling, where we do watch quite a few movies that don't really resonate with us, but I'll say, even going through a movie that does not resonate with me, usually, not all the time, but usually I can find one or two scenes that I'm like, if they had that idea that was expanded upon, they really capitalized on it, then this is a positive experience for me because Dylan and I, we're creatives at heart. We always sit down, we talk about different ideas that we have and can be expanded upon in terms of actual filmmaking. So looking at the films in this wide variety of things and stumbling upon things you didn't even know you liked until you're actually sitting down and giving it the time of day. It's just being able to do that is something I never would have guessed. When we had started this, we used the intro here for the podcast, like Dylan said, that we kind of trailed off on. And those were fun to do. Hey, maybe we'll bring them back at some point when we have the time.
Probably when we're full
Yeah.
time, it makes more sense.
But and it was great to really do the homework on a film that you absolutely adore and get the ins and outs of it. But I really do enjoy even watching a bad horror movie because there's just something about it where, it's like Dylan and I will trade out messages and be like, that one didn't really do it. But, we're on to the next one. So I love that you never know what the experience is going to be. That's what I love about screeners, and just kind of taking it all into a big pot and saying, maybe this one's going to be a must see, and then the next one's going to be a slash it, and then you have everything in between. So it really keeps everything feeling fresh for me, I think, because you never really know. As soon as you turn on that new film, that there's no reviews out, there's really nothing out there yet. You don't really know what to expect. That's such a fun part of it.
Yeah, I think the last one that really hit like that for me, I'd say recently, was like The Substance, where it had a little bit of buzz, but like seeing that and then us just being like, oh, this was fucking incredible. And then it came out like the next week. Dude, it was awesome to see so many of you guys in here just like talking about, like, Necro was one of them. Necro was talking crazy about that movie. Artie, I believe you were one of them who brought it up at some point. There was just people who were like, this movie's fucking incredible. And it was like so awesome to share that and like have that community. That sense of community is like something that I cherish so much about all of this. I want to talk to some of the people in the chat because we just kind of went on that whole tangent. So like, let's see. I know we got some people in here. Leanna, what's going on? Welcome. We got Eli in the chat. How's it going? And of course, we got Raymond popping up in here. What's going on? And hey, look who it is. I knew he'd pop up at some point. Gremlin Ryo,
the OG of the channel.
OG, man. Gremlin, and he even mentioned it here. He this guy right here, I think it was Halloween 4. We were talking about it. It was on a stream. First time he popped up. Dude has been here ever since. Like it was like him and like 2 other people were watching this stream, and we talked about Halloween 4 and all kinds of other horror things for like 2 hours. And this guy just popped up in here, and he's been so supportive, always popping up when he can. And it's just great to still see you here, man. I really, really appreciate you stopping by and seeing us again.
And that's one of the fun things.
Thank you,
before
Raymond.
we move on, as we get a lot of comments nowadays. Anytime Ryo pops up, it brings a smile to my face to log into the app and be like, oh, he's commenting on our stuff, just because it takes you back, to when we first started and we only had so many people. I mean, we're growing still, but we do have a handful more people keeping track of our stuff. But Ryo is our MVP. We got to make a plaque and send it to him because he's been around. He's been through the peaks and valleys of the channel
we
with us.
we promised him way back before we even thought this was a reality that like if we ever do merch, we promise to send him a shirt. So we're gonna still have to keep that promise for sure
Absolutely.
because like
Without
he
question.
deserves it. But I mean, there's so many of you guys that honestly I'd love to like send you guys stuff. Like if we ever get that far, that's not one of the announcements. I'll say that now. That's not one of the things we have coming on yet. We're getting there, but you know it's one step at a time. We're very nervous Nellies about taking on too much and under delivering because we've done that a couple of times with videos before. So my dad popping up in here, what's going on? Hard work pays off. Congrats guys. Thank you, Pops. I appreciate it. And let's see, it'll always keep visiting you guys. You're fucking awesome. Oh, thank you, Ryan. We appreciate it. Artie, yep, absolutely. 2 people stream just makes them more intimate. Yep, it was definitely. It was like you're having more of a direct conversation. I will say that's what it feels like because there's so many times where it's like you'll kind of like have to as you talk and let things go, especially when there's more of us.
That Halloween 4 stream, you know, I remember just like just talking and forgetting that it felt like we were just watching the movie at the time, you know, because it was just like such a back and forth conversation. It just felt like, you know, we're just on here discussing random stuff, you know, but you know, as we keep growing, it's rather interesting to see the changing in dynamics of trying to keep track of everything.
Absolutely. But well, since we're about 40 minutes into this, why don't we dive in to some of these announcements? We won't hold off anymore. I think we'll save probably the big one for the end. But I think to start things off, I know I've gotten some comments about this. Some people have brought it up and it's going to be happening. We are going to be opening a Patreon and moving into YouTube memberships for extra content. We have interviews I recently within the last year have only started putting clips out from certain interviews. And it's because one, interviews don't do too well when you put them all up as one go. They tend to really underperform. And unfortunately, YouTube, they punish you so hard whenever you have a video that underperforms. And so it makes it a risk, but I know there are a lot of people in here who appreciate that kind of stuff. And I was talking to Luke a while ago and I said, hey, what if we held some of this stuff and we only put some interview clips within our bigger spoiler reviews and things like that, and we saved it for maybe, you know, something else down the road. And this seems to make the most sense where we're going to have a couple of different tiers. We don't have everything worked out and we're not going to necessarily launch it until probably January is what we're thinking. Because the biggest thing, and I know both of us have said this to each other, and I've mentioned it a couple times, if we do paid content of any form, it has to be worth it to anybody who wants to contribute
from the start.
Yeah, and I don't want to put stuff up there basically as like a donation. I want it to be, if you guys are paying even like $1, $3, because like we're not going to have ridiculous pricing. It's going to be very reasonable. Because again, I think the best part about all this is like everything's expensive. Everything costs money today. And like, you know, there's so many people that like I come to YouTube because it's free content and I love it and I love the community. Like that's the main goal of that. So this is basically just going to be used as a stepping stone to help us kind of get to that point of being able to do this full time and also pay for some other things that we want to do. Like again, merch is something we want to definitely do in the future. We've had people ask about that. We've had many people ask to design merch, which has been very humbling, but you know, it's just all about baby steps and wanting to do it. And I know this one, we've been working up to this. So this is going to be something we're moving forward with. And we'll be releasing more info about it later on, but that's the first little piece there.
Yeah, we've been talking about it. We have a lot of ideas for content for Patreon. You know, there's so many things that Dylan and I, when we first started the channel, we had a pretty clear trajectory of what we wanted to do in terms of different ideas and reoccurring segments that we were going to have on the channel. And then it kind of just, you start picking up steam and you find out what works. And it's like, okay, we have to table this just because we have a handful of screeners that we got to get through. We've got a couple of interviews coming up and you just don't find the time for it. It's what happened with the podcast, to be honest, where we just didn't have the time to lay the foundation for a strong podcast episode just because we had to dedicate our time to other things. We do both work 9 to 5 jobs. So during the day, we're kind of on ice for a bit in terms of being able to create content and, really editing anything like that. We just don't have that time during the day. So most of the time we're doing stuff at night and balancing families and other things. It's hard to kind of, get in front of your computer and write out some stuff or edit some things or even coordinate an interview. So, as we grow that Patreon, and we do have a lot of content that we've been sitting on, Dylan talked about interviews. We have abundance of really great in-depth interviews that we just can't interlace into videos that are going to be a 15-minute review, because then it's going to extend it by another 30 minutes and no one's going to watch it. But, we have so much content out there that we're sitting on that we haven't put out there yet. And we have a lot of great ideas that we want to finally get around to. So as we work toward doing this full time and being able to sit down and have those meetings and be able to create different content and then put it up on that Patreon, it's going to be one of those things where we have big plans for it. We're going to make it worth it, because I think a lot of people, as a fan of something, you've subscribed to something and it was a little underwhelming to be like, there just isn't enough there. I ran through it all. I've consumed it all within a short period of time. So we want to make sure that we have an abundance of that content for you guys to really sit down and lose yourself for a few hours in Splattercast content. So, it's in the works. We're tentative January, depending on how December goes, how busy it gets, because we want to have all that content ready for you guys.
Yeah, and just to give you like an idea of kind of what the pricing structure was so far, what we've talked about is like $3 would be the entry fee. And I just went like, just to show how little I know about a lot of this stuff, like a lot of this came off of just looking at like videos and other things of people who do this stuff for real and they make it up, and they've kind of what they recommend. But like $3 for an entry would be things like access to exclusive polls. We are going to start a Discord because I know people have asked about that. I'm going to need some moderators because I don't know how to really keep up with the Discord. I can barely keep up with my own life. Artie says there's got to be a 666 tier. That would be hilarious, actually. We should do something funny for that. But it's going to be polls for the $3 tier. Polls, Discord, obviously. Early access to special videos. So like list videos, I'm going to plan to be early access. There's also going to be things like contribution to lists and things like that, because so many of you guys mention movies in the comments on these things that like I forgot about, or like I didn't even consider. Like I try my best to sit down and go through lists upon lists of just all different kinds of, like I'll type in body horror movies and just look at every single one that I can find, just to be like, okay, I've seen that, I have not seen this, and just kind of compile a list and then start pulling from that. But you guys always mention stuff that's like even crazier, or stuff I've never even heard of. At a $5 tier, we have, of course, access to all the full interviews, and there will be more at the $3 tier. There again, we're just kind of going this over. Members only live streams is something that I know we got to start trying to kind of do more of, is live streams, because with Beyond the Splatter Graves, that's kind of been what we tend to save our live stream time for, but we really need to step that up on this channel for you guys. And then one of the big things we have on there is, of course, we'll get you guys names in the credits and things like that. I've always wanted to do that, like just to have people who are supporting us in the credits and things like that, and actually build out that ending a little bit more and make it more of like a presentation of like, here's the community if you want to join. This is the one where it gets really fun, and this is the one that'll take a little bit more time. So this one probably won't even be available right at the start, but at $10, we'll have like movie nights where we'll basically, I know there's a service you can get. I don't know if it's just Discord, but there's a service where you can like screen movies with your friends. So we'll pay for that, and then have whoever wants to join at the $10 tier come on in, and we'll vote on a film, and we'll just sit back, watch it, shoot the shit, all this fun stuff.
Maybe even act out the movie for you.
That would be great. And then I have exclusive votes for that tier with things like hot take videos. So those have been a lot of fun for us to do. We have a lot, but it honestly would be a lot nicer if we could have people kind of pitch us their hot takes and maybe we could expound upon them for that. And then Splattercast Cinema. If you guys don't know, this is something that we did a video on ages ago. It's up there. It's Carnosaur 2 is what we talked about. But it was just Alex from Beyond the Void Horror Podcast and us. And it's something that we had so much fun doing, and I had to cut so much out of just to make it watchable. But like we just sat back and basically did like a Mystery Science Theater 3000 type deal with some bad horror movies. And that's something I really want to bring back and use as like an exclusive for Patreon and YouTube memberships. I think that would be a lot of fun to kind of do that. And of course, as we watch them, I want to have group participation in there. So it will invite you guys, leave that open so you guys can come in and watch those with us. And I think having everybody kind of contribute to making fun of and talking about these bad horror movies, like I think that'd be so much fun to do. So
yeah.
And there's some more things on there. I'll save them because a lot of them, again, it's just stuff that I don't even think we're going to get there when we first open it. I think the $3 and the $5, I'll probably have a $1 tier one that gets you access to the Discord and stuff. Just stuff like that, just to kind of, again, make it affordable and make it worth it. Because like, if we're going to do this, that's my biggest fear is I don't want to have people paying for something that doesn't give them something in return. Because like, again, like Luke said, I hate that when like I subscribe to something and, it's like I'm basically just donating money, which is nice, but also it's kind of like if you're advertising it as extra content, I would hope there's extra content. So I want to make sure that you guys are getting that. And yeah, again, those are just some of the ideas we have there for you. Ty popped in here. I think I'm new to the channel, about 2 weeks. I still have videos to watch, but I love the reviews. Thank you, Ty. We appreciate you for popping in. It's awesome. I'm glad you guys are enjoying the reviews. Other things that we've been kind of flirting with and talking about. One of them, the real fun one that I'm going to be doing with my wife is so I didn't know this, and Luke, I think we only talked about it a couple of times, but YouTube gives you, when you become a partner, what is it, an RSS feed or SSR feed, whatever it is for podcasts.
RSS feed, I believe.
Yeah, you get access to that, which normally you have to pay for. So we have that, and we're not doing a podcast right now, but I really like creepypasta stuff. I really like true crime stuff. I really like weird stuff, and so does my wife. That's why we got married. That's why we get along. And her and I have been kind of batting around an idea of starting just an audio only podcast that we'll do maybe like once a month, where we talk about some of this stuff, talk about creepypastas, talk about it's USSR feed. There we go. It's something that we've been talking about doing, and that's something that going into next year, we're going to have some episodes come out of that. We're still playing around with the title, so I won't announce that yet, but we have a basic lineup. We have like 6 episodes that we've already got ready to rock. We just have to record them. And that's going to be something there. My wife is somebody who isn't necessarily the easiest, I will say, and she's going to beat me up for saying this, to come across when it comes to her opinions on things. Luke knows that very well. She's very, very strong in her opinions. So it's going to be interesting to hear what she says when it comes to certain movies we cover. But one thing that I do adore about her is her obsession with and her knowledge of like true crime and all this stuff and just where her ideas go. And I'm excited for you guys to get to know her a little bit more, especially if you're into that kind of stuff. It's just something to kind of diversify what kind of horror we cover on this channel. And it's just going to be audio only. It's going to be that. And that's going to be that. Luke, maybe if you'd like, you can join us. Of course, you're welcome. Maybe we can get Zoe involved as well if she'd like to. I don't know if she's into creepypastas.
I know she's just certainly into true crime. I'm not sure about creepypastas, but she's always watching the true crime documentaries, which is something I got to get into. I always watch a handful of those true crime documentaries, but most of the time it's the fictional horror stuff that catches my eye. But there's a lot of interesting documentaries out there. So I don't know, maybe we'll deep dive into some true crime documentaries. Who knows?
100%. I like to watch like Lore Lodge and a bunch of other people on YouTube that really go over that. There will be some cryptid stuff in there too, for sure. I've already said that I would definitely want to dive into some lesser known cryptids and things, but that's going to be something that we'll be doing. And yeah, Luke, are there anything on your side that I'm forgetting that you want to talk about before we kind of get into the bigger piece?
No, nothing that we're committing to for Patreon or anything like that. I mean, there's so many ideas that have been around. There was a Gateway to Gore thing that I've been wanting to do. So I think certainly something like that I will dust off for Patreon elements and things like that. So I mean, as soon as we get that open, there's going to be an abundance of content coming out. So like Dylan and I said, we're still batting around some ideas, but we do have plenty to comb through for you guys. But once we do open up Patreon, like we've said a handful of times already, we're going to make sure it's worth it for you guys to subscribe to it and really check out that content, because there's been so much that we've been meaning to get to. And now I think as we get through the rest of this year and we open up 2025, I think hopefully we always say we start the year with the best intentions. So that's our intention right now. Hopefully we're going to follow through with that. We can breathe a little bit easier because we're in a bit of a different spot than we were a year ago. So the outlook is good, and we'll see what 2025 holds for us.
100%. Yeah. Oh, let's see. Necro says, I listen to creepypastas every night to go to sleep, currently on Fear Side, True Scary Stories. Yes. Yeah. Though, because creepypasta quality has kind of taken a dive and Fear Side has no advertisement in a row. Yeah, I agree. We're going to definitely talk about a lot of the older ones. One that my wife doesn't know that I'm excited and is on the list very early up is Baraska. If anybody's a fan of that one's pretty wild. So we're definitely going to dive into that. I know that's a very big one. Oh, there was one, I always forget the title of it, but it's a one about a cave. It's pretty awesome. But there's going to be some really cool ones that I've gone back and really started to pull some stuff from. There's also one about it's a bear that went pretty hog wild on some people in Japan back in like I think it was like the early to mid 1800s. It's a pretty wild out there story, and I've always wanted to talk about it, but we've never found like an outlet to do it. So I'm gonna do it there. Let's see. Kai says, love to see more horror movies you may or need to watch. So many people have missed hidden gems, but true crime is dope too. No, absolutely. And that's something we're definitely going to be doing. That's something we can talk about that first, and then we'll go into the big reveal. But yeah, lists are here to stay. That's definitely something that we're doing. Luke and I have had a lot of fun with those. I've been doing my absolute best to keep a list out at least one every Sunday, but we want to start doing like 2 a week if we can. I know the way we're kind of breaking it up now is like I've got a lot of like disturbing and gross and like, you know, the real twisted stuff seems to be what really hits for you guys, as well as like what Ty said there, horror movies you should watch before you see obviously a new release. The next one for that, I believe, is going to be werewolves. So that'll be next month. We have a ton of stuff coming out for that. And yeah, that's here to stay. I have way too much fun doing that. And then Luke has just been doing a lot of experimental stuff with his. I really loved the last one, and I know the people who've seen it have had a lot of positive feedback on it with the obscure horror film or obscure films from legendary horror directors. And that's awesome. So I'm super, super excited to see what more we can come up with and get more of these out to you guys, because the reception, you can't beat it. Like, they are our highest performing videos on the channel. And again, I just have a lot of fun making them. I feel like people think that I'm making that up when I say it at the end of all those videos, but like, no, I get excited. I like sitting down and putting them together because I'm just being a horror geek. That's just what I do. So it's fun to get to gush about all these movies at once.
Yeah, and I absolutely adore the comments. Like, I'm not much of a disturbing kind of gory person in terms of horror, but I think there's certainly some intriguing films out there. I think so many people commented on the Tokyo Gore Police that I am halfway through that, and what a wild experience that film is. It is. I love the lore. I'll tell you that. I absolutely love the lore, and I love the gore. So, Itchy the Killer was something that I absolutely loved back in the day, and never really, committed to that aspect of horror. But hey, with those lists there, you're swaying me a little bit. So there's certainly a handful of other ones I'm going to check out that people have been talking about.
Yeah, I always like say this, but I feel like I don't want to be too much of a broken record when I start those videos, but like I'm always trying my best to make sure that I'm not just talking about the hits. Like,
Yeah.
I think I found a nice little rhythm with it, but you never want to. I don't want to just release the same list that you can find on like
Everywhere else.
like everybody else, like Watch Mojo and stuff. Like I want to make sure that I'm talking about movies. Like I think the thing that bothers me the most, and it shouldn't, is like when I get comments from people who are just like, all these movies aren't nearly as intense as like Vomit Dolls or Martyrs or a Serbian film, and it's like, well, yeah, but I said I want to talk about movies that are like, great, that I feel like don't get covered as much. And then there's also movies that like maybe I didn't necessarily love, but they fit the topic so well that like it's worth mentioning at least, because that's really what I think is the fun part of it. And that's what I'm trying to do with that. And the other piece with the movies you should watch before is like opening it up to movies that aren't just horror. Is something that I really want to keep doing with that, because I think there's a lot of movies, because like I watch other stuff than horror. Like there's a lot of thrillers, a lot of action stuff that would fit with some of these lists, and I really want to open the door there a little bit more too. So yeah, I definitely am excited to dive into more of those, and I'm really loving how often you guys respond to the polls when I put those out. I think that's something I'm going to definitely try my best to keep doing, is like when I have an off week where it's like I don't necessarily know where I want to go and what video I want to release for the next list, is just putting it out there for you guys to decide, because that just gives me such a clear trajectory of like, okay, you guys are liking this, let's talk more about this. So yes, I will, Ty. I promise I will watch Mom and Dad. It's definitely in there. It's on my list for brutal horror movies that I'll be watching pretty soon, so that way I know if I can include it or not. But you are not the first, nor will you be the last person to probably mention that one. Yes, let's see. Oh, Blair and Cage, love that one. Yeah, it's I know of the film. It's one of those ones that has kind of eluded me. Oh, Mr. Boone popping up in here. What's going on, sir? Damn, guys, I'm genuinely impressed by your growth. I think you guys had 6,000 last I checked. I hope my channel pops off eventually. It will, sir. Just keep going. This summer I went from 200 to 3,300 now, but it's slowed down, and it will keep going. YouTube is peaks and valleys, my friend. It's the same thing for us. It slows down, and then it just goes. I really think the biggest thing that we changed this year, that we said we were going to try our best to do, is just find a little bit of our voice on what original content you guys want, because everybody can do reviews, and that's the thing that kind of sucks about it, is like I love doing it, and I will never stop doing it. It's definitely our bread and butter on the channel. But like finding the content that you guys like a lot, with like list videos or essays and like these kind of spoiler reviews when we bring guests on, like that's all stuff that's awesome too. And I'm really happy you guys like it, because that's stuff we like doing. So it's great to have everybody on there. Let's see. No, I have not. Actually, hold on. I got to see the poster.
Dylan is searching for a poster on the live stream. Look at him here. Everyone stare at him. We have no choice.
No, I have not seen this. I have not seen this. So I will add it there, Necro. I appreciate it. But yeah, I think no time like the present. I think it's time, Luke. I think we got to do what we're going to do here. Let me get this final touches, make sure this new feature works for us. A little something StreamYard added recently. Let's see. Nah, it's not going to do what I want to do, but that's okay. So let me get this here. So we have had something really cool pop up God, how long ago did we link up with this person?
That was a minute ago.
I don't want to give too much away right off the bat, but it was
Yeah,
like, God,
I'm trying.
February, March. No, I
Yeah.
think it was maybe June. I don't know.
No, yeah, I'm trying to think of the timeline. I think it was more so in the summer, wasn't it? I believe.
I think so. He's in the chat though. I've seen him talk, so he knows. But yeah, we had someone reach out to us. Basically, is what we're trying to say, and they were talking about wanting to do some merch, and they were the first person to do so. And you know, we aren't going that route yet, but I know. I know that this guy, like looking at his work, was something that I really really wanted to at least have some contribution on the channel here. Just it was again the first person to do it, and it was really flattering, and it was really something that they were very passionate about. They supported the channel. They really liked talking to us about it. And I said, hey, if you can design us a logo, some art for the channel that is original, I would appreciate it, because I love our logo. It's our OG logo. But I'm gonna be honest with you guys, that is completely like royalty-free assets that I used on an app called Placeit. So although it's cool and I like it and it fits the tone really well, it's also something that can easily be recreated, and all you have to do is pay like the $1.75 and then you can license it. So it's tough because it's one of those things where it's like, it's cool, it's synonymous with our channel, but we don't own it, so we can't. And our buddy here, and I'll put it up here, Johnny Mashed Potatoes here, this gentleman here, he's Can't Be Killed is what he goes by for his art. I won't say his last name because I don't know. Actually, I didn't know if I got permission to mention his full name, but Johnny here took it upon himself to take on this task. And it was something that, you know, it takes some getting used to when you're kind of trying to depart your way from a logo that you kind of become synonymous with. And it was a little bit hard for us at first, but I got to say, the guy crushed it. He came right out of the gate swinging with some wild stuff. And I was like, man, I don't know about that one. That one's a little crazy. I was about it, but then it just kind of looking at it, it was like, I don't know. It would fit with another idea we had, but he came back with another design, and it's perfect. It is everything that I love. So without further ado, let's take a look at the new Splattercast logo, designed by our boy here, Johnny Mashed Potatoes, Can't Be Killed. I am going to also be putting a link to his website here, his shop, so you can see all of his other work in the chat here, as well as linking it at the description of every single one of our videos. This is the new Splattercast logo that will be going up here very, very shortly. As we move into the new year, I'm going to be replacing things. I'm still working on the new intro and everything. So you'll still see the old version 1 logo is kind of how I'm dubbing it, and how I think it was probably best. Because I think since we paid for it, we own it, we can use it. But I think like this being the version 2, the next iteration of Splattercast after the 10K mark, this is great. And this isn't the only thing he designed. No. As you can see here, he did give us a layout for everything that he used, which again, so unbelievably fucking professional. I was blown away by this. Like, this PDF is everything to me. And then this is kind of like let me zoom out of this a little bit for us here, because this is a little too close, but this is kind of like an Instagram story style. And then this is the big one. So I'm gonna have to zoom out. I don't know why this one's so... Oh, here it is. Yeah, that's better. This is going to be our cover photo for the channel. I mean, it's all designed by him, brought forth. It fits. It's perfect. It still includes the Chainsaw Man, just a little bit darker, a little bit more, I guess, us in a way. And it's... I'm so fucking blown away by this. Every time I open it up on my phone and look at it, I'm just like observing all the detail he put into it and everything. I'm so impressed, and I can't thank him enough for taking this on and knocking it out. Luke, how are you feeling about the artwork here?
You know, it's such a wild concept to think of us starting the channel and then someone taking upon themselves to be like, hey, can I create something for you guys? You know, it's such a humbling experience, and to be able to produce something of this quality, you know, something that I think as we move into more so kind of our voice, you know, before it was get the channel up and running, you know, what can we find to just have out there and make the videos work. You know, we have that intro, we have the logo, but it does fit for us. You know, it was something where, to the best of our ability at the time, this is what we have. We got to get moving on the channel. But to be able to have someone come in and say, you know, I've watched your stuff, I know what the channel's about, and let me make something that is customized to the channel and it's going to fit that voice from the moment you turn it on, you know. And it is an offshoot of something that we initially had, you know, because we love Sackhead Killers. We have a fondness for Friday the 13th Part 2. You know, the chainsaw is iconic. We got to have that in there. So to be able to take those grains of ideas and to make something completely customized and something unique to the channel, it was just baffling that you can, you know, because we're so laser focused on, we have to have our hands in it. But to have someone else that knows the voice of the channel as well, to be like, yeah, I got this one, guys, just take a seat and let me produce something. And for it to fit so well, it was just something I don't think either of us were prepared for when we had actually seen it.
No, and I think it was an adjustment too, because like, I mean, I remember initially both of us just being like, on the first version, we knew it was cool, it was really great, but it was one of those things where it was like, I just don't know if we wanted to part that far away. We still wanted the sack head and everything, and all that, but like, to see this, you know, it was something. Even then, it's you get so attached to the old logo and everything, and you're just like, man, I don't know, like, is this really where we want to go with it? And then, like I said, because we've had this for like a couple months now, and like we've been trying to, the initial pitch was to do this on Halloween, but obviously with all the stuff that we had coming on, the opportunities we got with Terrifier 3, it just got to be so overwhelming that we just wanted to make sure we were giving this the time that it deserved. So it's like, this was something that I'm really, really happy with. And I remember opening this up again and really scrolling through it, looking everything over and just being like, this is it. Like, this has got to be the one, because like this absolutely fits. It's fun. It's made with so much care and attention to detail, and it is us. So, you know, it's like one of those things. I'm a person who is known, I guess maybe you call me a hoarder. I have a hard time putting things away, or I guess getting real nostalgic and attached to things. But when I really sat back and looked at it, and I was just like, this is exactly what the next iteration of Splattercast needs to look like. It fits everything we're going for. It's got some of that classic style with a little bit of that harder edge to it. And again, I think that Johnny absolutely knocked it out of the park. And again, I put his website in there, and it will be in the description of every single video from here on out. He will be credited as the person who's done our art and everything for the channel. And this will not be the last time we work with Johnny, of course. Like I said, he offered to make merch first and foremost. So I certainly believe that there will be some stuff that he's going to be working on for us here as we get a little bit bigger and keep things moving. So that's the biggest reveal we have here. Again, Johnny, thank you so much if you're still in the chat watching, man. Like, I appreciate it so much. And this is going to be something I'll be making a community post to show these off a little bit more. And then obviously they'll be transitioning into the channel here as we move on through the month. So we'll be getting these back in there. Again, the intro is probably going to be the last piece that'll change, just because I'm really trying some new things with some new software, trying to make this animated and kind of get things going. So I'm testing a couple of things. So once that hits by the first of the year, the intro and all this will make sense, but we will have it, I promise. Oh man, that feels weird, doesn't it, to actually have this out in the open now? I feel like we've been sitting on it for so long. I'm just like, it feels weird to to like have it out there, and I'm actually like super pleased about it. Because yeah, it's like it's been kind of like a kept secret. So, you know, thank you for all the love, guys. I'm so happy to hear your thoughts and feeling this live. Such a great moment. Thank you, sir. I mean, you earned it. It's absolutely amazing. And yeah, we definitely will be reconvening here shortly with you after this, because we gotta make sure that we get you taken care of. And yeah, that's that. I think there's one more thing though that I did want to mention. Luke has a piece of it with him. Another gentleman reached out to us last month, and you know, they were very, very humble and said that we did not have to make a spectacle or anything. I thought about making a short for it. I thought about doing something, maybe a post, but this just seemed appropriate to put out here. But we had another fella by the name of Johnny Pretzels.
The Johnnies.
The Johnnies love us, I guess. But Johnny Pretzels reached out to us. He's a big fan of the list videos, big fan of the channel, and he asked if he could send us some artwork. And guys, the box that showed up for this was absurd. Absolutely absurd. It was huge, and I had no idea that it was going to be this. We're only going to show one here, but these are going to start popping up in our backgrounds. I've already got it laid out a little bit, and I just got Luke some of his the other day, so we're going to start placing these out. But I'll also make a community post. But Johnny Pretzels makes
reflection, but
hey, it's all good. Johnny Pretzels made us some basically fan edit posters, fan art posters of some of the movies that we enjoy talking about.
Johnny Pretzels
logo on the back there. Yeah, we'll definitely take some pictures. I did also not consider the glare. Yeah, but yeah, he made us some awesome art, some awesome fan art for things like Bone Tomahawk. The one that I really had a great time with was the Loved Ones. There's no like Loved Ones merch that I can ever find, no posters or anything that I've ever considered buying, and he sent me one for that. There's all kinds of stuff. The Bone Tomahawk one is gorgeous. So yeah, those are going to start popping up in the background here. I'm going to be kind of rearranging some things again to accommodate them. I know Luke's going to put a couple up there, so we're going to have them represented. But Johnny Pretzels, if you are watching this, if you've seen this video later on, man, thank you so much. I know we sent you a big email about it, but it's gorgeous stuff. So that was amazing. And that's another thing too. We actually, I forgot to include this in the list, but P.O. Box. If any of you guys have fan art, any of you guys have art that you make and want to send to us to pimp out on the channel, we're open to it. We understand that there's a lot of stuff, people just trying to get their names out there for things. We are here to help. We have this platform. We might as well use it to help other people's platforms grow. So let's do it. We're going to get a P.O. box together here shortly and post details about it. I'll have it in the description of all the videos, in the channel description. So that way we can get more involved with you guys on that front as well. So to reiterate, we will have memberships and Patreon here by the first of the year. We have a new original Johnny Mashed Potatoes created logo, art, everything there. We've got a new look, a new design, and yeah, we've got a bunch of stuff coming, man. It's going to be amazing. It's going to be exciting. Lots of lists, lots more videos, lots more collaborations, podcasts, all kinds of stuff on the way for you guys. And seriously, we can't thank you enough. Like, from the bottom of my heart, this is a dream come true to have people who actually want to watch our stuff, actually want to support us and talk about this stuff. Like, I don't know. It's humbling every day to have people want to check this stuff out, talk to us, get our opinions on things, ask us for things. It's like something I've never experienced before when it comes to talking about movies and shit that I love.
Absolutely. It's one of those things where you look at it, and Dylan and I would have these just random horror conversations, years ago, of we get to get just lost in it, in front of no one. It was just kind of our thing. And then we were like, hey, well, maybe we can start the channel up, and, we'll just do it for fun and see where it goes, and never in 2.5 years now, almost
Yep.
3. We're getting there.
Almost 3 in May.
To think we had this much expansion in such a short time, and like Dylan said, it's humbling. It's something you can't be prepared for it. You always hope that it'll happen, but when it does, it's a weird experience in such a positive way. You can never prepare yourself for it. So I think it only motivates us more. We're so excited for the new year. 2024 was such a big year for the channel. I never thought we would be here as we leave 2024 and get into 2025. So we're absolutely going to make 2025 a year to remember here on the channel with so much more content, being able to kind of find our groove, find our voice, and really pump out some content we've been meaning to get out for the past 2.5 years. So it's going to be exciting. Come along for the ride. I know you all will. And we're gonna pump out some great content for you guys.
Absolutely. That's the plan. And as we approach, we're getting up there. I mean, I don't want to talk all about money and finances here, but we are starting to see a little bit of some trickle in. It's starting to get more consistent with how this stuff works. So, we're getting to the point where the bills for the channel are getting paid, and we're able to save just a little tiny bit at the end of each month. So our goal is to just save as much as we can and really use it to hopefully by this time next year, if all goes well, we'll be able to do this full time. And once we do that, I mean, I'm seriously considering doing like some of our friends like Jake and Evan and others who do multiple live streams a week. I want to start doing those just where we talk about horror news. Maybe we could play some games. I mean, I have not played a video game since we started doing this. Like realistically, Killer Clowns is the most. I got a lot to catch up on, and I want to do that because a lot of you guys ask, and it's like I'd love to, but I just don't have the time. So once we can do that, and then I mean, who knows? There will be other channels, other things that will crop up from that. And I mean, I just know for certain that this has changed our lives in a big way, and it really means the world to us that you guys are a part of that and you did that for us. Like, because at the end of the day, Luke and I can make videos and just throw them out into the void, but the fact that people like you guys who have been in the chat, people who subscribe to this, who got us to 15K, like, you guys are really what makes everything happen. So if there's anything else I can leave you with before we sign off here, is just thank you. We appreciate you guys. And I mean, lastly, I say it all the time, but if you guys want to see a specific kind of content from us, if you guys want to, have us do something that's a little bit, maybe something we haven't considered yet, let us know, because like we're open to it. And the more time we get, the more time we can dedicate to things like that. And I want to make sure that if you guys are here to support us and you're here to just watch our videos and give us likes and, just be here, that you guys are getting what you guys want from us. So we'll just keep it going and we'll keep things moving. So that's it, guys. Thank you for 15K. Thank you for all the support. Thank you again, Johnny. Both Johnnies, Johnny Pretzels and Johnny Mashed Potatoes. Absolutely. Thank you to everybody who showed up. Mr. Boone, Gremlin, Necro, Eli, Artie. I mean, everybody who's in here. I know there's one more. Leanna and Raymond. All of you guys. My dad, Jim. All you guys who showed up today. We appreciate you more than you'll ever know. That's the end of my little long-winded ending there. So that's what I got. So yeah, guys, thank you so much. But yeah, I guess that's where we're gonna leave it off. So I guess until next time, I'm Dylan Newell.
And I'm Luke Ginesco.
And wait a second, what's the outro again? Isn't it? Oh yeah, remember, stay scared.